Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Stephen King podcast. This is our episode 28, and the focus this time will be on the TV series Golden Years that aired in 1991. So it's 33 years, right?
Wow.
That's long time. Yeah, but first we're going to start off with some news.
Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
And the first news today is that Joyland, who was released by Hard Case Crime in first a paperback version and hardcover limited edition, will now be released as an audiobook as well as a trade paperback. And I don't know really how much it will be different, this paperback, from the one that was released by Hard Case Crime, because that was a paperback as well. Maybe it will be somewhat smaller size, because the one from Hard Case Crime was this little bigger size. But definitely an audiobook would be nice to have from that one. And the release date for this audiobook is in April, and the paperback will be out in May 27th. So for those of you who didn't get it when it was released by Hard Case Crime or wanted it as an audiobook, you should check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe there'll be a sneak peek or an excerpt from his upcoming book later this year, Revival, and what's the other one called? The Umbrella? Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mercedes. Maybe probably an excerpt from that might be in there, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And while we're waiting for Mr. Mercedes to come out, later on this year we're going to be getting the second book, Revival, and we didn't know a lot about it until a recent press release, and you can look for it on Han's site. It's an article posted on January 31st, and this one sounds really, really cool. It's got a Ray Bradbury Something Wicked This Way Comes vibe to it to me when I'm reading it. But it's about addiction, religion, fanaticism, and what might exist on the other side of life. And it starts about half a century ago with a small boy playing with his toys when he sees a striking man, a new minister, and his family strike up a friend with these people. But then something terrible happens, and the preacher curses God, and then is banished from the town. And after all of this, the boy, whose name is Jamie, who's the lead character, I believe, in the book, he continues on his life, and he finds out that he has affinity for playing the guitar, but he's mostly just good enough to play in a band, but not good enough to make it big. And he becomes a gypsy, I guess you could say, running from his family and tragedies. And of course, he develops addictions, and things come full circle later on, and he meets up with the Reverend Charles Jacobs, and they have a pact of some sort, and there are many terrifying meanings to the word revival. So this sounds like a really cool gothic kind of horror story. So while Mr. Mercedes is a straight up more crime drama, this one is much more up my alley for the kind of books that King writes. So I'm really looking forward to this. Description has really got me excited. How about you, Hans?
Yeah, I agree. Sounds like a great book. And it was a bit surprising that we learned so much about it already.
Mm-hmm.
Usually publishers are mostly interested in promoting the next book, and since this is the one after the next, I'm a bit surprised that we got so much info about it, but it's great. It's really good. The release date is November 11, as it looks now as well.
Okay.
So we'll have one book this summer and one in November. Gonna be a great year. Next up, Under the Dome is back this summer in June, and we've gotten some casting news. And I'm sure Lou and I will talk a lot about how these people could have gone unnoticed for so long, since they are closed in under a dome, but let's get back to that later when we actually see the episodes. The first casting news is someone who you will recognize if you followed the CSI New York. It's Eddie Cahill. Cahill, sorry.
No problem.
Who played the detective there. And he will play Big Jim's brother-in-law, for some reason has been hiding under the dome. And we will also get Carla Crome, who I don't have much experience of, actually. So she's a new character for me. And we actually have a third casting. Grace Victoria Cox is also going to be in the series. She's 18 years old. And she will be somewhat of a competition about Colin Ford. Norrie and Ford is a couple. And she will come in and possibly break that up. So it's happening stuff, but still I'm a bit confused about how they will have been hiding out under the dome.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a big dome coming down over your town, you don't hide for a long time and then appear.
Yeah.
So
and this is exactly the type of issue that we were talking about when we were reviewing the series. It's the first season.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a proper timeline established with the show. From our perspective, because we watched it over 2 or 3 months, it felt like it was a couple of months of time. Whereas the showrunners have been telling us that it's a day. Each episode is meant to be like a day, but that's never established in the show. So at least I've built up this feeling that a lot of time has passed. So for these people, like, you could say, okay, in a week, I could buy these characters not showing up, but now they're showing up in the second week, and if they would establish the timeline better, announcements like this would be easier to take for me, and it sounds like for you too, Hans.
I agree.
So they really need to start doing that, even if it's just a cheap title card at the beginning of each episode saying June 10th. June 11th, June 12th. Like they've got to give us a timeline, because it just seems kind of ridiculous that people are showing up under the dome and they haven't been there for a whole season. So I just wanted to add to the one grad that you mentioned, Carla Crome. She was in a BBC limited series called Misfits, and it was about a bunch of teenager juvenile delinquents that got superpowers, and she was quite good in that show. So that actually gives me something to look forward to, because I quite enjoyed her in that series. The other actors I don't really know. I don't watch any of the CSIs in that, so
well,
it'll be interesting to see how they play out.
Yeah,
but
I watch CSI pretty much, and actually Eddie did a great job there. So I don't doubt his ability to act.
Okay, good. Because they definitely need that. And I think the fact that they bring in these two characters in might give some credence to your hoped for character deaths.
Yeah, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the ones I want to see dead are going to die, though. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. They seem to be aging the show up from the looks, if this is what they're going to be doing. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. What was also mentioned was that season 2 will go further from the book even than season 1 did, and I'm sure that will annoy quite a lot of fans of the book. So we'll just have to see how that is responds to.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to mention a surprising bit of news too from our Stephen King Twitter feed for the podcast, the S King podcast. We're being followed by the CBS Under the Dome Twitter account, so that's awfully good of them. And we told them in one of our tweets that it's nothing personal. So hopefully they've either they've listened to the podcast or they're very good sports about it. But that's just something interesting that I noticed on our Stephen King podcast Twitter feed. So that was kind of cool.
Maybe they want to hear what the fans think about the show. So
yeah. I mean, we're just two people in a large audience. There might be a lot more people out there that like the show a lot better than we do. But we'll have to see how that plays out.
And it will be interesting to see, since King is writing the first episode, to see where I don't expect him to change the show very much with just one episode, but maybe we can get a hint of what he would like the show to go, which direction.
Well, that's an interesting question, and we'll cover that a little bit more when we get into Golden Years, because he wrote most of those episodes. That we're going to have some interesting conversations about that for sure. Sticking with TV, and every time me and Hans come to the end of the podcast, we're kind of fishing for topics and say, what are we going to talk about next? And we've got Under the Dome coming on TV, and now we've got another series that's been announced, and that's Ayanna is heading to TV as well. And that is a short story from the Just After Sunset collection. Is that correct?
Yep.
produced by Universal TV, and the story was written back in 2007 and published in the Paris Review. This will be written by Chris Sparling, and Bren Haber will be the producer, and NBC is interested in this project, but we don't know at this point whether or not the series is going to if this show is going to go to series or not. But we'll keep an eye out on that. Maybe it'll become another summer series, and we'll have 2 shows to talk about this summer. Yeah. Under the Dome and Iana.
I think this one has a better chance of doing it, because this is like Green Mile and Woman in the Room, a mix there, a little more feel-good story. So I think this one will hit home with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. Next up is news about The Cell, and we have talked about this movie before, and that it's been developed, and we saw some posters that were going to be used to sell the movie, and it looks like it actually took off. Some news were reported now. The Berlin Film Festival is going on, and we actually have some photos from the shoot.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of Samuel L. Jackson stepping out of a car. Sounds like an exciting movie. And some other pictures of a street that looks like there's been something going on, a car being turned over, and warning signs and stuff like that. So it really isn't saying much about the movie itself, but I think it's I like this book, and I think it could be a great movie, and I like Samuel L. Jackson, so I think this might be a good movie, and I'm happy to see it being shot.
Yeah, it's another zombie type movie, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in this zombie heavy time period, but yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out as well. And in other movie news, as we reported on earlier podcasts about the 10 O'Clock People being produced by Tom Holland, it's got a star attached to it now, and that is Jay Baruchel, who you may know from, he did the voice work on How to Train Your Dragon. He's also was in that Nick Cage sorcerer movie called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. He's been seen in He's Out of My League, Night of the Museum, The Battle of the Smithsonian, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. And he's got a definite look and style to him. It's an interesting casting choice there, because he's not your typical heroic lead. He's much more of a nerdy, gawky kind of guy. So that's an interesting choice. And it looks like they're going to plan to start filming this in Montreal, which is his hometown. And yeah, it's an interesting choice. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah. There was some speculations online that the cigarettes would be exchanged for some heavier drugs in this movie.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that happens. I would be pretty happy if it were just cigarettes, because that would make it more I think more believable, because it's easier to, I imagine, at least, since I haven't tried any heavy drugs, but I imagine it's easier to live a normal life and just be a smoker and going out. You don't have to be a drug addict.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would prefer if they stayed with just regular cigarettes.
Yeah, I think it's a funny dig at the tobacco industry too. So.
Yeah. Moving on. Since last time, there has been a rather cool video posted of the twins from the Shining movie, all grown up, and well, you can see that it's them if you compare the photos, but they look totally different, because a lot of years has gone since they were played. But it's interesting. They have a Facebook page where you can follow them and stuff, and so if you like the twins in Shining, you can always follow them on Twitter. Oh, sorry, Facebook.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool picture. I mean, whatever you think of the movie, those twins are almost as famous as the Here's Johnny Jack Nicholson shot. So that those two girls, and you can see them in their faces right away that it's them. So yeah, it's really cool to see them. Didn't even know they were still around and kicking, but yeah.
I have to admit, I haven't
very
given
cool.
them a thought as if they were around and kicking until I saw them.
Well, that's probably the sign of a healthy mind.
I hope so.
All right, and we're going to jump back to TV with this last news item, and because we had just done in our previous podcast the big Haven Season 4 finale review of the last 3 episodes, and during that review we speculated that maybe the show was at the end of its line. So not only were we way out on that one, but I don't think there's anybody out there that would have projected exactly how much the show has been renewed. How about you, Hans?
No, I didn't believe it first. I thought someone was joking with me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing and it's strange. But it will be interesting to see.
Yeah. So just to be clear, not only did it get renewed for another season. It basically got renewed for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Because each season's been 13 episodes, and they got a 26-episode order. Now, I don't know if this is an economies of scale kind of deal, where because the producers of this show are also working on that other TV series at the moment based on the bargain rates story. So this might be getting there with this additional 26 episodes. If they've had 4 seasons of, say, 13 episodes, that puts them close to 80 episodes, which is the usual minimum amount of episodes that studios want for syndication. So it used to be 5 seasons or 100 episodes, but now it's around 80 episodes. So shocking, to say the least.
Yeah.
It must be tied into that deal with the other series that they're producing, I have to believe. But on the other hand, this puts the ball squarely in their courts to deliver a series that ends with resolution, clean, clear resolution, and no hanging threads.
Yeah, I believe this will be the end of the series.
Me too.
It's planned to air with 13 episodes this fall, and then 13 more episodes in the next year.
Yeah.
So I really don't know why they're not calling it episode or season 5 and season 6 instead of a long season 5 split in 2.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like, I know when they did the last season of Sopranos, they called it season 6A and season 6B, because in the space of one season the actors can't negotiate for higher salaries.
Right.
So maybe this is something like that. But anyhow, I think they got these 26 episodes, and they are going to finishing it up, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, but we were obviously wrong about them probably not getting renewed either.
Definitely.
So we'll see
definitely.
what happens. So
I'm still hoping that we will get at least half a season in this other space where they go when they go down the hole.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't see how they can afford it, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, it could be Haven. They just have to paint it a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
Alternate reality.
Or they might go back to the time period when Mara was around or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's as long as they avoid ending up with a final season like what happened with the Dead Zone, because that was one of my biggest TV disappointments for what I thought was a really good series up until the final season.
Yeah, and I think what's in their favor now is that it hasn't passed so much time since last season. With the Dead Zone, a lot of time passed between the second last and the last season, so some of the actors left the show and so on. So, But I think here we don't have that problem, so that shouldn't be a problem if they don't want it to be like that. So.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that is the news for this installment of the podcast. And now, we visit the King Crate and see what Miss Treasures, the Fluffy the Crate creature from Creepshow, has left for us to examine. Up next, we are going to be talking about Stephen King's 1991 series, Golden Years. And this was a very interesting show. I would rate it a AA show. By that, I mean it went the whole spectrum from awesome to awful. How about you, Hans?
Well, I was actually surprised that I liked it as much as I did. Mm-hmm. And like we said in the intro, it's 33 years old, so you have to be forgiving for a lot of stuff. I mean, how they look, how they are dressed, how they use computers. I mean, like today, that seems like the time the dinosaurs walk on Earth. So you have to be forgiving for a lot of things. But if you can be that, I think this is quite a good show, actually. I liked it much more than I thought I would.
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think that comes down to what the core of the show is about. Like, this premise of a man reversing his age is a fascinating one, especially since he's married and his wife is not reverse aging. So that is the piece of the show that kept me watching through all the episodes, because a lot of these episodes, and surprisingly, most of them were written by Stephen King, have ridiculous filler in them. And what we have to do is we should set up the show for people who've never seen it, because it is hard to find on video on that. And I want the mathies out there don't jump on us. It's 23 years, not 33 years. So
oh, sorry.
That's okay. I just realized that now, and I actually just pulled out my calculator, double checked it. But
Yeah, 23.
what we have here is an interesting concept. As we've mentioned, we have two characters, Harlan Williams and Gina Williams. And Harlan Williams is working as a janitor at a secret research center. And during the course of the first episode, which is like a 90-minute pilot, actually, he's exposed to some radiation from an experiment being run by one of the awful aspects of the show, in my mind, Dr. Richard X. Todhunter. And we find out over the course of the series that Todhunter has been doing research into finding ways to help soldiers rapidly heal from wounds. Harlan is accidentally exposed to this radiation, and the radiation effects in this show are terrible. I mean, I thought the Incredible Hulk effects were bad, like from the Bill Bixby series. But the green glowing that they throw on here, there's not really any effort made to blend it into the scenes at all. It's just like a blob on top of his face or in his eyes. So those effects are terrible. But what this radiation does to him is reverses his aging, among other things. And because the show was so abruptly ended, we're given glimpses of other powers, but they're never really fully explored. But the main one is that he's reversing his aging. And by about the third or fourth episode into the show, him and his wife, along with the head of security from the base, basically go on the run as they're pursued by somebody from the shop, which, of course, Stephen King featured prominently in Firestarter. So that's about as far as the show got. So I think we should run through the characters as well.
Yep.
We have Harlan Williams, who's played by, and I'm probably going to pronounce his last name wrong, but Keith Sarabaka, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he's probably best known in recent times from, he was in The Dark Knight, and he was one of the cops. He's the cop specifically that was left alone with the Joker in the interrogation room, and then the Joker prodded him about killing his partner, and so that he goes in there and he wants to beat him up, and of course the Joker gets the best of him. So if you remember the actor from anything, it's probably from that.
Yeah.
The makeup on him just doesn't really work. Did you think so, Hans?
Well, I actually think sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I looked it up, and he is 39 years when this was shot.
Okay.
And plays, what is Harlan at the beginning?
70.
He's like 70, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think when he is like 70, I thought that the makeup worked pretty well. But then as he ages, not so well. Then you can pretty much see that it's a lot of makeup. But I think when we meet him first, I bought the makeup, actually, when he was as old, the oldest. So a mix. I think it works that way, but not when he gets younger.
Oh, interesting. Because right off the bat, when I saw it, like, because the series opens with him riding his bike to work, and it doesn't look like a 70-year-old man pedaling.
No, I'm not so sure he managed to play an 70 or 80 years old man.
No.
But I thought he looked it in the face.
Okay.
When we first saw him. Yeah.
Interesting. Because it worked, I think it worked in certain scenes, but anytime he was with his wife, who was played by Frances Sternhagen, who we of course, know from The Mist, and as the actor, she's older than the actor playing the character. So she looks naturally her age, where him against her, you can see how unnatural he looks as it aged up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. And as you said, as he gets younger and his darker hair, his own hair color is supposed to show through, it just makes the gray hair look really fake.
Yeah.
But their relationship is the core of the show. And so Harlan and Gina, and that's the part of the show that worked for me the best. And I was really interested in seeing the two of them handling this totally bizarre situation where he's getting younger and she's staying the same age.
Yeah.
And I really bought it, and I think that Frances Sternhagen, she was just fantastic as Gina.
Yeah, she's great in almost anything she does.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't really bought is as the series goes on, she became like it was almost like she got grown older and older and older as she gets younger and younger, and she gets more tired, and so I thought her getting worse. It was a little too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure they were on the run and stuff, but I think it affected her a little bit too much, I think.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I bought it because, like you said, she's a 70-year-old woman to go on the run, and the stress of being pursued by these agents and everything like that. I could see like her stamina wasn't as great, so I bought it from that perspective. But I do think they kind of played up her putting her hand on her chest all the time, like that was. Yeah. They didn't need to do that because I understood that as an older person she was getting tired, run down because they were on the run and all the stress and everything that was going on. So those are the main two characters, though Francis Sternhagen's character doesn't get like near the top billing in the show, but to my mind, they are the two main characters of the show. And the next tier, we have three actors. We have, and they're all in some way related to the base. We have Felicity Huffman, best known for her TV series Desperate Housewives. She plays Terry Spann, and she's the head of security at the base. She was a former CIA agent, and she used to work with another character played by the actor R.D. Call, and his name is Jude Andrews. He has an interesting background, doesn't he, Hans?
Yeah, they work together, as you say, and he's kind of a sadist.
Yeah.
Who likes to torture people, and that's what breaks their partnership up, because she can't stand him going over the line again and again when he tortures people to get you get the feeling that he does it because he likes it, even though they tell him everything they know, he still continues because he likes it. So she doesn't like him at all and isn't happy when he came in and were going to be part of this investigation.
And he works for the shop, so which we know from Firestarter, so that was cool. And I thought the actor played him really well. I don't think the character was written consistently at times, but the guy had a presence about him. Jude Andrews is a great name. I think at one point somebody sings "Hey Jude" to him a little bit, but he, he really has a menacing and tough atmosphere persona about him. But we'll get into some of the plot things that he had to do later on that undermined his character. But as a antagonist in this series, I thought the actor did a fantastic job with that character.
Yep, I agree.
And then we had Ed Lauter, as if you may remember, a character actor. If you see him, I'm sure you'll recognize him. He just recently passed away. He's no stranger to Stephen King projects. He was in the movie Cujo as the owner of the dog. And his character is the or commander of the base, General Louis Cruz. Even though it's spelled Louis, that's the way I spell my name, but I prefer Louis, or Lou. Him and Terry Spann, Felicity Huffman, have kind of a romantic tension going on in this show.
It's a pretty lame tension, I think.
Yeah, because he's so much older than her. It's kind of creepy too.
Yeah, and I didn't really buy it, so it just felt fake to me.
Yeah, and Terry Spann, played by Felicity Huffman, did she remind you of anybody else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, to me, she was a version of Scully from the X-Files.
Yeah, now that you mention it.
Yeah, totally. It was like Scully the clone.
Yeah. Scully Spann.
Yeah, so and she's pretty good. Her character again had to do some pretty stupid things. Her compassion for the Williams character, Gina and Harlan, felt genuine. And the tension, her antagonistic relationship with Jude Andrews, I thought was pretty cool as well. So
I read an interesting thing about just the Terry Spann character. She wasn't there from the beginning, from what I understand.
Oh.
And when King was selling this to the networks, he just wanted to do a 14, 15 episode season, and then that would be it.
Right.
And as he writes in an article I read, is that's a big no-no for TV series, because the networks say, hey, what we're going to do if it's a success?
Yeah,
they can't just see
very different climate back in those days.
Yeah, they can't see it as a success and then just nothing more will happen. So actually, the character Terry Spann was created if it was a success.
Oh.
She would have been the one going forward to season 2. So the plan was to have Harlan's story end with the first season, and if there were a second, it would be about Terry.
Oh. Interesting.
So
that sounds like the X-Files even more then.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. So that's interesting. That is the top 5 players. So our characters: Harlan, Gina, Terry Spann, Louis Cruz, and Jude Andrews. Those characters and actors, I give A's. I thought I don't think they're awesome, but I thought they were quite competent and they did the best with the material that they could do. And I generally bought the relationships with these characters, so they were pretty good. But then we move into the awful. And there are some awful characters here, and one of them really hurts me because he's a great character actor and I'm going to save him to last. But we had a couple, and some of these characters were killed off, but Bill Raymond as the scientist, Dr. Richard X. Todhunter,
Yeah.
Pretty cool name, but a horribly cliched mad scientist character.
Yeah. Even up to the hair.
Yeah, he looked like he looked
standing
like
on
Curly from
edge.
the Three Stooges.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it brought some. It just was like a caricature of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was way too much.
Way over the top.
Yeah.
It's his character represents the tonal issues I had with the series because Golden Years, you didn't know if it was trying to be serious or a comedy or a horror.
Yeah.
It was all over the map, and his character was, for the most part, cliched comedy.
Yeah.
There was good portions of episodes where he would spend yelling at people to do things to get a cable for his computer.
Yeah.
And that took up like 40 minutes or 30 minutes of an episode. You're kind of going, seriously?
Yeah.
And he was so erratic that you just can't believe that Jude Andrews would put up with this guy and not find a more stable scientist to take over his work.
Yeah.
Just a terrible character.
Yeah, and it's so sad that he is, because I think if he would have been more sane and still being, he can still be the mad scientist in the respect that he is doing the mad work with aging people and stuff. But as a character, he if he would be more sane and more put together, it could have been working so much better.
And there was a seed of it there too, like because he would go to his to his father's grave in the cemetery, and sleep there and talk to him and bury stuff there. Like if they would have set that up first and explored that, they could have made a really creepy character out of the guy. But as the way it was done, it was just so way over the top that you just could not buy into it at all.
No.
And another character that just irritated the heck out of me and was Dr. Ackerman. And nothing's worse than watching an actor that you know has never smoked in his life trying to hold a cigarette. And every time he had a cigarette in his hand, I could say to myself, fake, fake, fake. This guy's never had a cigarette in his life.
Yeah.
It was just so distracting to watch him try to hold a cigarette and make it look like it was something natural. Did that bother you at all, or is that just me?
No, I agree. It looked very fake. Very, very fake.
Yeah, you could tell this guy had never held a cigarette in his life.
Yeah.
And it was so distracting.
Yeah.
And his character, again, was made to, and I want to be clear, like going through these, I'm not blaming these actors. I think under the constraints of this TV show and the scripts they were given, this is the direction that they were told to act in these episodes. I'm sure with other material they probably could have done better, but in this particular instance, and that kind of has to go back to who wrote these episodes. And it felt like King was not totally committed to this.
No.
I guess that's the kindest way I can put it.
Yeah, and I think as I read also that he intended this to be a book from the start.
Right.
And then he turned it around and made it into a TV series, and he did the first episodes, and no one really bought it, and he just continued a little bit for himself. I think he wanted to know what happened, and my guess is also that once it was accepted as a TV show, maybe he expanded it a bit and added these stranger things.
The whole thing feels very rushed.
Yeah.
It feels like, it doesn't even feel like a rough draft. It just feels like a synopsis.
Yeah.
And they had to fill the episodes with stuff, and that's why we get like this crazy stuff with Todd Hunter trying to filling out forms to get a cable to hook up two computers. Like, you're just kind of going like, seriously?
Yeah. We have to say one thing though, that the show was canceled after 7 episodes. So we don't know really where it would have ended up. I mean, the stuff that Todd Hunter is burying stuff on with his father's grave, that might have led into something substantial or cool later on. Yeah. So it might have been cut a bit, that we didn't get a full extension of it. So we have to have that in King's favor, that he maybe meant to go somewhere but didn't get the chance. Yeah.
And the other character that I don't think the actor did a terrible job, and he was obviously playing a person with a handicap, but the Billy, the janitor character.
Yeah.
It's just that every time he came on the screen, I go, oh, the show is going to slow down even more.
Yeah.
And the show was already slow to begin with, so when he came on, it was like watching paint dry sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, even though he had some handicap, as you say, but so much. I mean, no way he would have gotten a real job in real life. He was too handicapped. I mean, they could talk to him and he would forget what the person said from the time it left the mouth on the other one till it reached his ears. I mean, he was too much as well. I wouldn't have mind if he was a bit slow, because that would probably have fit the part, but I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that one scene when Jude Andrews is questioning him at his trailer about whether Harlan had any family or not.
Yeah.
His reactions were exactly like mine.
Yeah.
Like, hurry up, give me the answer. Let's get going.
Yeah.
So that was like art imitating life at that moment.
Yeah.
But the one that really pains me the most is the character Major Moreland, played by Stephen Root, because I've seen him in other things, and he's a really, really good actor. And I actually think that his character is a very tied down by the numbers character in this show, Major Moreland. I actually think he did a great job of portraying that. Like, I don't think his acting was bad at all.
No.
But I just think the character was terrible to be in this show. Because, again, he was just a roadblock to any forward progress in the story. So Stephen Root's Major Moreland really hurts me probably the most out of all of the ones here, because I know this guy can act. I've seen him in Justified, I've seen him on Fringe, I've seen him in plenty of other stuff. The guy's a great actor.
Yeah.
And I think he did a good job with his character, but I just think it was a terrible character from the get-go.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they meant well when they created his character, because I think he had a place to fill in the series, but it like with the others, it got too much. They should have toned him down a bit. He could still have been this neurotic person, but they turned him up too much, and it didn't. Like when he, just before he gets shot, he sits in the kitchen and flipping those peanuts or what it is, and he's totally in his own space there, and
like he's totally snapped.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So it was a relief when he was shot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were the main characters.
We have one more character. Sorry, we have one more character we have to mention, and that is Eric King playing Burton.
Who was that? Sorry.
Black guy who helped Jude Andrews.
Oh yeah, he showed up at the very end.
Yeah, who deleted the files and stuff. The reason I mention him is not that I think that he was a great character in this show, but for those of you who, like me, like Dexter, remember him as Sergeant Dokes. So.
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah.
I thought he looked familiar. Oh my goodness.
So.
I totally did not clue in on that.
No.
Oh yeah, because I like Dexter, especially the first 3 seasons. But Dokes was a great character.
Yeah, so that's the same character.
Wow.
The same actor.
Oh man.
Yep.
That totally went by me.
Well, I'm glad I could tell you that.
Yeah, that's spooky. Ooh.
Yep.
All right. We had 7 episodes here, and from the pilot that we've already described, it basically becomes like a fugitive show with Harlan, Gina, and Terry Spann on the run, and then later on, Cruz hooks up with them, and that's almost by the last episode. So in between that, we get a lot of strange plot stuff going on, with a lot of it with Todd Hunter. Some of the stuff that Terry does on the run, like switching the car for a hearse at a shopping mall, is like a ridiculous idea. And then even more ridiculous is that they're going to paint it. Like, like what the characters were made to do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It seemed like with Jude Andrews, like the first killing that he did where the lieutenant had heard from, I think, one of the survivors of the explosion telling the truth about what Todd Hunter had done. That one kind of made sense. But then when he started killing like the doctor and then the optometrist, it was just so ridiculous that, especially like the optometrist, you don't need to kill the guy. All you need to do is steal his file.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like, seriously?
I think they were trying to show how ruthless he was.
Yes, but I think that had already been established by this point. But because again, the actor that played Jude Andrews did a great job.
Yeah.
I did like in the opening episode, one of the things I found cool is, and I don't, this is for the gamers out there, I found like the early experiment scenes felt very much like the Half-Life PC game, if you've ever played that.
No, I haven't, sorry.
Yeah, so that was cool. And the show milked the shots of the particle accelerator building with the hole in the side of the wall. Like, I think we saw that for like 4 episodes in a row. And then all of a sudden, the last episode, the hole's fixed.
Yeah, they did a great job fixing it, I must say. Not a trace of that hole.
It matched seamlessly, yeah.
What's interesting, as you mentioned, the computers, it's very interesting to see how, I'm sure this was high tech back in 1991, but it's interesting to see how they use the computers and how it looks and how they type in on it, and I mean, it feels so ancient.
Yes.
But I guess you have to forgive that since the show is 23 years old, but still, it moved so fast.
Yes, and along those lines, sometimes the show looks so cheap too. Like some
Yeah.
of the sets for the base,
Yeah.
the morgue and the sick bay, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
All it was like, it looked like walls with blue lighting on it. Especially like the morgue. You just don't leave bodies on stretchers and body bags like for a week. Like, are we supposed to believe this blue light is preserving the bodies? I guess I don't know, but
Yeah.
so some of the stuff was really cheap.
Yeah. And I like Major Morland's office. It was like my closet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that was deliberate.
Yeah,
But,
I think so too. But
yeah.
the sets, as you say, I think they were made to, what they wanted to do was to make them look futuristic. And
Yeah, so they just lit them blue.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I remember I saw this like maybe in 92 or something like that. And I don't really remember how I felt about it then. But today it felt like if you happen to watch one of those daytime soap operas where they're really cheap. They just take whatever they have and, as you say, paint them blue or I don't know what, but it wasn't really thought through. They just, oh, what do we have? Okay, use that. That was the feeling that I get. So that was a bit sad.
Yeah, it's at times the show felt really cheap.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they spent most of the money on getting this theme song from David Bowie. Because I got to say, every time that theme song would play, I was right, and you're seeing like the opening title clips, and even the open titles, the letters for that were cheap too, very videotapish looking.
Yeah, but I think that's typically 90s.
Yeah. Something about that song is what hooks you into watching the next episode too.
Yeah.
So that was money well spent.
Yeah.
What else was there?
Something I reacted on was I think it was in the last episode when they are going to storm the house where they are hiding out.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all these agents disguised as garbage truck man, whatever, all around. And the way they are getting these people their weapons is by driving in garbage truck.
Yeah.
And from the garbage cans, they retrieve these machine guns and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't they have gotten them when they came?
Yeah.
I mean, why smuggle them in on the streets and then handing them out instead of having them?
Yeah.
I know this is a small thing, but it annoyed me enormously when I saw it.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk a little bit about the last episodes when we get into it a bit later.
Yeah.
I'll have to give them credit. There was one instance where you have to assume it was budget restrictions is when Terry Spann is having the flashback about Andrews, I guess, on the mission that broke the two of them up. I think it was in Mexico or something like that. They had this really tight shot of the room they're in, and all the angles are off on crazy angles, and the door is a really funny shape in that. And I thought that worked really well as a flashback for her thinking back on that crazy time that was when she was with the guy and that he was torturing and killing these people and going beyond the needs of the mission while he was doing that. So I thought that sequence worked really well, actually. So I thought that was a clever use of sets to address what was probably a budget deficiency. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, do you have like a highlight moment in the series that sticks with you more than anything else? And I know. Positive way?
No, I think the most positive I have about the show is, like you mentioned in the beginning, the relationship between Gina and Harlan.
Mm-hmm.
And how they deal with him aging and she feels older. And I think that's the best thing I take with me from this show.
Yeah, my favorite moment actually pretty well ties into that, what you just said. In episode 4, there's a scene, episode 4 is called Not on My Watch, and there's a scene at this point, the Harlan and Gina and Terry are on the run, and they're painting the ambulance, and Harlan goes to talk to Gina, and Gina has a conversation about the fact that he's getting younger and she's getting older and what's happening to their relationship, and the fact that at a certain point they're not going to be able to relate to each other anymore because of the age difference. So I don't know if you remember that scene or not, Hans, but that was my favorite scene in the series. I thought that was the core of the show right there. How are they going to handle that going forward, And I thought that Gina Frances Sturhagen, she just killed that scene. I really liked that scene quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was kind of speculating, even though they had this sort of relationship with Terry and Cruz, I was wondering, like, if the show had gone on longer and he gotten younger, would there have been starting to be an attraction between Harlan and Terry?
Yeah.
Because they seem to be pretty simpatico during the series, so that could have been an interesting dynamic to watch. But of course, the series never got that far. So
they would have to hurry up though, because soon she would have been too old for him as well.
But just for that, for that time period, that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah. I was wondering when I watched this, I was thinking that if they had gotten the chance to play it out, I was thinking how would it have been done? Because as far as I understood, Harlan didn't really age in his mind, because he's when he and Gina talked, he still saw himself as this 70 years old man.
Yep.
And if that would have continued and he would have grown younger and younger and younger, would he have been an infant with a 70-year-old man's mind?
Yeah, but
it would have been interesting to see.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess it's like that Brad Pitt movie, Benjamin Button, or whatever.
Yeah.
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 So that was my favorite scene. But then on the other hand, like you have and there was a lot of scenes that you just kind of roll in your eyes at, that they're just so silly. Most of them to do with Todd Hunter, but like the last episode, that's that whole sequence where they're staking out the house where everybody's hiding out. And then when they actually started attacking these people, like in broad daylight, they were shooting these people and tear gassing them. And I was just like rolling my eyes. Like this all felt so like 1960s hippie stuff. And it was just ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. It wasn't believable at all. Never mind them rolling in the guns, but just, like and Moreland gets shot at this point, and they shoot two unarmed civilians. Like, seriously? Like, I was just, and this house just happens to have a drain tunnel entrance underneath it. They were obviously trying to wrap all this stuff up, but yeah, that last sequence outside of the house was just unbelievably horrible. Yeah. I just, obviously they were trying to wrap things up, so, and they didn't have a lot of room to work with, but yeah, that was just brutal.
Yep. And if we're talking about the ending, there are two different endings to this. And the first one is an open ending. And I read that when the show was cancelled, King asked CBS if they could have 4 hours to wrap the show up. They said, no, you can get one. And he say, screw it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so it ended like it ended. They just slapped the to be continued sign on it and aired it. And in this episode, Gina dies.
No, well, you're talking on the movie version.
No, about the one that aired on TV in the US.
Oh, is that the series version?
Yeah.
I thought the movie version was the one where she died.
No, that is the TV version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's,
I got those backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta change my notes here.
Yep. She dies of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And Harlan refuses to leave her, and Terry and Lewis does have a choice. They flee to the tunnel. It's pretty much the same as in the video version that we're going to talk about later. But Jude Andrews follow them, and Andrews get killed, and Terry and Lewis walk off, and they indicate that they will go back for Harlan and save him, because he's actually captured by Jude Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty dramatic at the ending. He comes out with Gina in his arms and screams to Jude that, look what you've done, and they sedate him and bring him back to Todd Hunter for experimenting on. So that's what we're left with, the original TV series.
Oh, really? I thought that was the movie version. That's interesting. So the 7th episode has the movie ending in it then? Yeah,
actually, there's 3 versions of this.
Oh my goodness, I can't keep track.
No, we have the first version that aired on CBS in 1991, and that has the ending that I just described.
Uh-huh.
Then when they sold this TV series outside of the US, they didn't want to have this open ending, so they did a alternate ending where Gina survives, and she and Harlan, Terry, and Lewis all flee through the drain pipes.
Mm-hmm.
Jude Andrews is still killed, and Harlan surrounded by a glowing green light, and he and the Gina disappear just into thin air, and Terry and Lewis walks off feeling pretty happy about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the version that they sold, and the version that aired here in Sweden on TV.
Okay.
And then when they were going to release this on video, since this was before the DVD time, they cut this down from 7 episodes. I think they cut like 3 hours of it. So half of it was cut out and re-edited as a 3-hour movie that had the new ending where Harlan and Gina disappears in this glowing light. So those are the 3 episodes. And the only, as far as I know, DVD version that has all 7 episodes is Dutch DVD release. That has the new ending, the one where Gina and Harlan disappears in the light. So if you want to see the original ending, you probably would have to find someone who recorded it on videotapes when it aired in 91.
Oh, okay. Because the original ending, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was a terrible downer ending to the series. Whereas the one that has Andrews getting killed, which is quite a surprise actually, and then Harlan and Gina disappearing in that green glow, that's the best ending. Is that the one that you like the best?
No, I actually like the other one better, where Gina dies and Harlan get captured.
Yeah, no, I don't like that ending. But the only part of that ending that I like, and we discussed earlier, it has an additional scene of Todhunter going to his father's grave, which is a seed of something that could have been really interesting.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that in the series ending. That scene's not there. So, I much prefer that ending, though why Harlan has the ability to disappear, we don't know. But there was a hint of that in one of the episodes where it seems that he made the sun come out early.
Yeah.
But nobody ever discusses that, and he caused an earthquake, and he actually causes an earthquake a couple of times. So he's getting other powers beyond just aging backwards, but they're never explored at all. So it's a very frustrating series. It's, like I said, it ranges from potentially awesome to terribly awful.
Yeah. And the most frustrating thing for me is that I would like to know where they wanted to go with it.
Yes.
If they want to have Harlan turn into this 1-year-old kid, or did they find a treat, or what happened? I would like to know where they plan to go. But as far as I know, King has never talked about how he wanted the series to end.
Yeah, and it's interesting that nobody's ever asked him too many questions about it either.
No.
So just a couple other quick things I wanted to mention before we wrap this up. It's worth watching if you're into Stephen King cameos, because we get a cameo of him as a bus driver.
Yeah.
And that was kind of funny. He always likes to play the redneck, and he does a good job here.
Yep.
Yeah. We get a mention by Terry Spance saying that the only agent that she knew that was better than Andrews was John Rainbird, which of course is from Firestarter.
Yep.
And one of the characters in the house at the end, and the house is like a commune, and one of the characters at the house is named Captain Trips.
Yep.
And he's the one that sells out the location to Jude Andrews as to where Harlan and Gina and them have hidden themselves. So there was, a couple of cool King tie-ins there, especially the stuff with the shop.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you got back to writing about the shop.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to.
Though I think it sounds a little cliche now, but...
Yeah, but they could have made a move into the 20th century. 21st century.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Golden years.
Yeah, it's definitely worth seeing, but if you can only find the 3-hour version, you don't have to be too sad about it, because it really isn't any big plot holes in it. I mean, most of the plot is there. It's just shortened, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. I mean, as a Stephen King fan, you obviously want to see it all, just because it's Stephen King. But if you look at it just like a movie, I think actually the 3-hour movie could be more than enough.
I'd have to see the movie version because, as we've mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that could get cut out of some of these episodes, and nothing happens really except Todhunter screaming at people and Billy talking about trying to become a taxidermist and stuff like that. And it's just a shame to see an idea that at its core has a really interesting idea, and then there's just the pressures of producing this for television that just feels very slapdash. And the show, it's got a great concept, but it's all over the place, and it's painful to watch at times. And then,
it would have worked so much better as a book.
Yeah, and then, but at other times, you're saying, man, this could be really awesome if they just had more time to polish the scripts and commit to the idea and flesh out exactly what his powers were going to be and stuff like that. But alas, it never came to pass.
No.
So I gave it a AA. Awful to awesome. What do you give it, Hans?
Yeah, I have to agree. It's good and it's bad, but I was surprised though that I liked it as much as I did. I thought I would like it less before I saw it. So it was a positive experience to rewatch it.
Yeah, I definitely think if you're a big King fan, it's definitely worth trying to hunt this down and watch.
Yeah.
It's got some interesting tidbits in it that are worth seeing as a King fan. To the general TV viewer, I doubt it. that they'd be interested in. But there's just some, and you just get a kick out of seeing some of the actors like Ed Lauder and Francis Sternhagen, who are in other Stephen King projects, to see them in this as well. So
I posted on Facebook asking people what they thought about this, and surprisingly though, most people who commented liked it. So
yeah, that's the thing. I would say I liked it, even though I recognize that there's terrible parts to it. But overall, I liked it, and I'm like you. I'm definitely glad that I watched it.
Yeah, and someone even mentioned that it is on the US Netflix, so that might be worth checking out. I don't have it here in Sweden though, so I can't say for sure. But
I can't either because I'm in Canada.
Yeah, but if you're in the US and you want to see it, check out Netflix. You might find it there.
Yeah, because I tried the Canadian Netflix and it's not here.
No.
So, folks, that wraps up our review of Golden Years.
Yep.
Bottom line, it's a mess, but it's a mess worth checking out. So, hope you enjoyed our review of it. And it's not easy to find. You might have to go, like Hans mentioned, to either videotapes or to get an import from that Dutch company. Probably on eBay or something like that. You might get lucky.
Yeah.
So, that wraps up our podcast for this week. And before we go, Hans has a contest announcement winner that he would like to make.
Yes, and we had a contest where you could send us a comment on the voice widget we have on the site, because we want to hear from you. And quite a few of you did, so we're happy about that. And please keep them coming, because we want to hear more. The winner of this contest, who will get a copy of Turn Down the Light with King's story in it, Summer Thunder, is Sinkur Gabor. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And now we are going to listen to what Sinkur had to say.
Hi there, I just wanted to tell you how amazing job you're doing and congratulate on the website. Unfortunately, we do not have any professional website about Stephen King, although the Hungarian fans are slowly accumulating as well. I'm glad to have Lilja's library because it's a useful source of information in a quite organized way. Keep up the great job, guys. Greetings from Hungary.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and with that, this can conclude the contest. But we will still like to hear from you. And if you do send us a voice message, please make sure you speak directly into the microphone, because if you're too far away, it might be hard to hear what you say. So make sure of that, and keep them coming.
Okay, folks, that's episode 28 in the bag. And for our next podcast, episode 29, because there are so many adaptations of Stephen King material being made into TV series, we thought between the two of us, between Hans and I, that it would be a good idea for us to come up with our top 5 picks each of short stories from Stephen King material that we think would make great TV series. So we're going to present that to you next week, and we also want to get your input on which stories you think would do that. Right, Hans?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, this is top 5 stories that you think would work as a TV series. It doesn't have to be your favorite stories. They would have to work as a TV series. And you can either send them as a tweet to either Lilja's Library or the Stephen King podcast tweets. You could post them on Facebook, or you can speak your mind in the audio widget, or you can email them, or anyway, you can call me if you find my number as well. That's okay. So we just want you to send them in, and we will put them together in a top 5 listeners, and Lou and I will talk about those as well and see if what we think about them. If you have the same as us, or if we think they will work or not.
And remember,
so please do that.
And remember, call Hans, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'll pick up. Okay, so that's it for this time. Until next time, stay safe, but
stay scared.